I got good.
So you're ready for Dark Souls, huh?
No. Not my kind of game.
I've been going back and forth on whether to get the remastered one. I mean, I know I'm gonna.
Does it play different?
No.
Does it have a different story?
No, it's the same game.
Is there a different ending?
Even if there was, it would be pretty meaningless because the endings were fairly minimal.
Is there any reason to keep buying multiple versions of the same game?
Yes, to play it again on a different platform with better graphics.
All right,
look.
Whatever.
I don't normally go in for the remastered stuff, okay?
Uh-huh. I know this
really,
about you.
I don't.
Yeah.
Okay, but I do love this game. And it did have some performance issues on the the PS3 and honestly, you know what? The big fun of it will just be that other people will be playing it again so that the multiplayer component will be there. Because I really did enjoy going into other people's games and helping them beat bosses. I was a sun bro, as they are called. So if the game is active again, I'll be very happy about that. It's the sort of game that, every time you play it, you discover something new that you hadn't noticed the first time. Little details. The world is so rich in tiny details. It's like, you know how when you watch a movie and you're like, oh, I never noticed how Egon was prompting Peter Venkman with the prices for the ghost hunt, the price for ghost busting services in the scene where they were shaking down the manager of the hotel. Which, true story, I only recently noticed that. If you watch the scene where they're charging the guy from the Sedgwick Hotel for the initial capture of Slimer, Peter keeps trailing off to quote a price. And if you look closely, Egon is touching his face and holding up a certain number of fingers, like 2 fingers for 2,000 or 5 fingers for 5,000.
I feel like I have noticed that before.
I never caught that.
Huh.
It's just such a cute little detail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you expect that Dark Souls will have many cute little details like that, huh?
No, I just want to play the game again.
Okay, fine.
With a PS4 controller.
What happened to Stardew Valley?
I stopped playing it.
Oh.
Honestly, it's funny you asked that. I came to the realization that I was not enjoying it so much as I was addicted to it.
Oh.
Yeah, it's one of those games. It's very good at giving you a routine, because you just have your little daily routine. You boot up the game and then you go, you check on your crops, you water what needs watering, you harvest what needs harvesting, you go sell it, you go pet all your animals. You harvest the eggs, put the eggs in your mayonnaise machines. You milk your cows, put the milk in the cheese presses, and then you decide what you're going to do that day. Like you go and you fish, or you go and you conquer the 120 levels of the dungeon or whatever, and you go through it, and then you wake up the next day and do it all again. And
why does this sound like a work simulator rather than any sort of fun?
Because it's a work simulator.
Oh, okay.
It's just strangely charming about it. It wasn't. So. Well, so here's the thing with it. At the beginning of the 3rd year, because there's a story to it, but it's a very minimal story. And I think I mentioned it, where you are left a farm by your grandfather for the day where the soul-crushing existence of your corporate life gets to be too much. You go to the farm. So there's kind of a message in the game too, but it's subtle. You might not notice it. There is actually a plot thread with crushing Walmart. You have to get Walmart out of the town, but you can actually ally with Walmart. Ally with Walmart. And crush the sense of community out of the town instead. And interestingly enough, I think it's easier to go through that path. You still get all the same stuff. It's just all you have to do is throw money at it. Because that's all Walmart wants. Anyway, and it's not Walmart. It's Joja Mart. So, Anyway,
Joja Mart. Yeah, right. I'm familiar with them.
At the beginning of the 3rd year, your grandfather his ghost comes and evaluates you. And it's either, hey, you did great, congratulations, now here's a statue that generates the most expensive good for you every couple of days as your prize for winning. Or, well, you didn't do so good, so goodbye. And until they updated the game, once that happened, your grandfather never came back. So that was sort of the ending. You know, you were supposed to be able to do pretty much everything you wanted to do in 3 years. And by the start of the third year, I had hundreds of thousands of dollars and had a large, efficient farm so that I was easily going to turn that into much more money in the next year. And had already made over $1 million and just reinvested it in the farm because I got the trophy for it. I had captured every fish, including the hidden legendary fish, by following the clues in the library. I had gotten to the bottom level of the dungeon. And then the game rewarded me with, okay, here's another dungeon, except it's endless. And it has no checkpoints. Have fun. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think I need that. And then at the point where now the new year is starting and my grandfather scores me and he's like, okay, great, here's your trophy, you win. And I'm looking at the remaining things that I could do, and all of them involve me grinding more money for minor things that will just give me the power to get more money. So like, there's actually nothing left to accomplish here. Because at that point, like, I know the money grind is inevitable. It's like, now it's just a matter of I just keep it going for as long as I have to.
Did you, in fact, out-accountant the game?
Yeah, of course. Of course. My first year, I kept a list of every crop that was available, what the seeds cost, what the yield was, what the profit was. And then but in the second year, concentrated all of my efforts on just the most profitable crops. Like, and planned ahead. I made one minor slip up because a certain seed only becomes available on a certain date in spring, and it's the most valuable. But beyond that, yes. So, and that's why by the end of the second year, I had completely upgraded my house, checked marriage off my to-do list, checked have child off my to-do list, because those are goals. Had completely reinvigorated the entire community by pumping as much money into it as possible, driven Walmart out of town, conquered the mine, caught all the fish. So it was like, what else?
This game holds nothing for me now.
That's it. Now all I could do is just keep getting more money. I mean, there were a few other upgrades I could buy, but all of them were like bonus items at that point where it would just make you make more money faster. Like you can build a little grass hut that is occupied by forest spirits who will harvest your crops for you. I'm like, okay. Clearly I have demonstrated, but with my 6-figure income from farming, that I do not need, magic spirits harvesting my crops for me. And all that would allow me to do is, harvest, grow even more crops and make even more money. So I was done. And then I looked and I'm like, that entire experience was utterly insubstantial. I could not, I approached it like one big puzzle. But in the end, the problem with that is once you've solved the Rubik's Cube, you take the Rubik's Cube and you put it on your desk solved, and you leave it there. But you have no memory of the process of, remember that moment when I got that first side all white? That was a great day. It was like there's no standout experiences. Catching the legendary fish was kind of a challenge because the fishing mini game is stupid. And apparently, I have found out the fishing mini game is extremely divisive because it's about the hardest thing to do in the game, and it has kept a lot of otherwise 100% completionists from 100% completing the game. Because it actually requires reflexes and execution. You can't just get away with everything else is just kind of, it's all menu driven. And then you do the fishing thing. Even the combat is just stand still and keep swinging your sword. The windmill tactic of the schoolyard bully. It's just like, I'm just going to swing my arms like this, and you better hope I don't walk into you.
Yeah.
That is how every combat in the game went. I'm going to stand here swinging my sword. I sure hope your AI doesn't cause you to just charge me. Oh, darn.
Yeah. What a shame.
Oh, hey, you dropped the sword upgrade. So, yeah, I am done with Stardew Valley.
Okay. What have you replaced it with then? Or dare I ask?
I started replaying the Legend of Zelda, Oracle of Ages, and Oracle of Seasons, which were two like partner games that came out at the same time for, are they on Game Boy Color?
Aren't they? Okay, I'm going to ask a question. I'm only asking out of the fact that I do not know.
Okay.
But I have heard things, but I don't know for sure. Are they not considered some of the worst Zelda games?
No, they are. Those are not considered some of the worst games.
Okay. All right.
They are divisive.
Mm-hmm.
But they were generally pretty highly ranked and reviewed.
Okay.
They're very well designed. The thing is that there was a schism, let's say, in the Legend of Zelda world.
Okay.
Where the games went 3D. With the invention of 3D games on the Nintendo 64 and then beyond. The games went 3D from your 2D top-down perspective that they used to be. And so the 3D games sort of evolved in one direction. And meanwhile, on the handheld consoles, those maintained and continued to evolve the 2D format. And they were a little bit campier, a little bit funnier, but they were more focused on just developing the core gameplay of the Zelda franchise, whereas the 3D games kind of got mired in their story. See, now this is where I'm going to get really unpopular, because I consider all of the 3D Zelda games to be the weakest things that the franchise has ever produced.
All of them?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I will admit, the first one, Ocarina of Time, the one for the Nintendo 64, it did revolutionize gameplay for the Zelda franchise. It completely reinvented it because it was the transition from 2D to 3D. So it was either going to have to fail or revolutionize the franchise. That said, it suffered from terrible pacing issues. And the controls were great. It was a great game. Okay? If it were not a part of the Zelda franchise, I would call it a really great game. It was great. But if I compare it to the stuff that the 2D Zelda games did, it's fairly lacking. All of the scenario design is really subpar. It's very linear. The puzzles, the boss fights, they're nothing special, nothing to write home about. Everything that really evolved what that franchise started has, happened in the 2D games. So, okay. And I've been replaying Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons because I think really that's where the dungeon design, like the level design, was spot on. They hit it perfectly. And interestingly enough, those two games were not even designed by Nintendo. They were designed by Capcom. So they were made by a third party. They weren't made by the folks who made the Legend of Zelda series.
So, okay, you picked them up and started playing them.
Yeah, for a little bit. And they're interesting games because they're two separate games. But after you beat one, it gives you a password that you can then take into the other one. And the other one, whichever one it is, because you can play them in either order, becomes the sequel to the game you played. So there are little story elements that are slightly different that call back the previous game. And it turns out that both of the evil plots in the two games are being perpetrated by the same mastermind, who then, if you beat both of them, appears and you have, a final encounter with the mastermind. But they are completely separate games. It's not like Pokemon where they're two different versions of the same game. They're different games, different core mechanics, and even the gameplay styles are a little bit different. Oracle of Ages is more focused on solving puzzles and playing mini games, and Oracle of Seasons is more based on combat and action. So
I presume then that both games were then made at approximately the same time.
They were actually both released on the same day.
Oh, okay. Because that's really the only way you can get away with that is if you know you're doing at least 2 games.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, originally, because in the Zelda franchise, that one of the big elements is the Triforce. This 3 major virtues in the universe: wisdom, power, and courage.
The magic pizza slices.
Yeah. Okay. So they were originally trying to develop 3 games that would all be interconnected. But with the password system, they could not figure out a good way to have each of the games respond to which games you had played first and to make it all work. So they had to drop it down to 2. So originally they were going to play off the three different elements of the Triforce,
Right.
So, yeah, but they're really neat games. And I've never actually had the patience to play through both of them in sequence and then see the final boss.
Huh.
As much as I love them, I mean, fatigue sets in after a little while.
Yeah.
But
that's why I'm still technically stuck on Dragon Quest VII.
Yeah.
Problem is, I'll have to restart it to remember where I was.
Well, that's the problem I'm running into now with Monster Hunter World, because I keep thinking about going back there.
Right, you did something radical and unprecedented in Monster Hunter World.
It's not that radical for me. I have a tendency to delete save files all the time.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'm the sort of I can't pick up anything in the middle after too long.
Right.
Whether it is a book or a movie or a television series or whatever, it drives Tiny crazy. Because if we're watching a TV series and too long has gone by, we have to restart it now.
Mm-hmm.
We were watching Game of Thrones for a while. We got into the 3rd season, but now my statute of limitations is worn out. So if we're going to rewatch it, we got to start back with the first episode. We got to watch Sean Bean die all over again. So.
Wow.
So yeah, I have a tendency to delete my save files when I give up on a game just to commit myself to coming back and starting fresh. I also do it after I beat games. So that someday I can go. I don't know what. It's just a weird thing that I started doing when I was a kid, and it's just now a habit. I just delete save files with reckless abandon. And often when I start a new video game, I will delete my save file 2 or 3 times and restart the video game until I feel like I started it on a good footing.
Like maybe if you didn't understand part of the demo, or not the demo, but the tutorial or whatever.
Yeah, or you know what? If I sunk skill points into something that, when I was playing Prey, because the skill points were... picking the skills is kind of important to the gameplay style that you want. And at that point, I had no idea how many skill points would be available through the game. So once I realized I had picked some useless skill points and how important some stuff was going to be in, 100%ing the story and finding everything, which are my important things, I deleted my save file and restarted so that I could spend my skill points a little better. Okay. I didn't know if I'd ever get them back. So
see, I don't usually tend to do that because my feeling is, I guess that this is the experience I'm going to have, and that experience is going to reflect good choices and bad choices in the whole 9 yards.
See, now this is the thing. I want a perfect experience.
Oh, okay.
Because on the other hand, while I will restart again, I replay old games frequently. I keep going back to them. The way people will read favorite books or watch favorite movies, I replay old games all the time.
Right.
But I always assume I'm not going to, and I always want to make sure that I catch all the content. I'm not 100% completionist. I mean, I am, in that I generally want to collect everything I can. But it's more sort of, I don't want to miss out on story bits or... I don't want to miss out on anything. And so I want to make sure that my first playthrough is fairly perfect. And yet I still refuse to look up gameplay guides or walkthroughs or anything else. So if I'm going to get that perfect playthrough, I usually have 2 or 3 false starts.
All right. Well, fair enough. I mean,
I'm strange.
Yes, but, noted.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't claim to be blameless on that restarting front because I did finally plump for a full copy of Shroud of the Avatar.
Oh, really?
Yes, which I began by deleting my original character. and starting a whole entirely new one, which is interesting because I'm running or trying to run a magic user at this point. I forget exactly what they're called, but I'm running a magic user at this point, and I've gone through I think most of the tutorial, but I can't figure out how to get out of the area I'm in. I know where to go to get out of the area, but I don't know how to get out of the area. Because I've done all the things.
And yet there's something blocking you, implying that there's something that you haven't done yet?
Yeah, somebody has not unlocked the door for me, and I don't know what it is.
So you're basically, there's a switch missing.
Yes.
There's a switch in the store you haven't thrown.
Somehow the little flag has not gone up.
Yep, that's it.
I don't know where it is, but I again, so much has been going on lately that I can't even devote any time to figuring out what's gone wrong.
Yeah, no, and that's the other reason that I'm just replaying something old now at this point is because I don't have any time to play the game. Well, first of all, we're doing this on an odd night.
We are. This is a Wednesday night. This is the old night.
Yeah, this is when we used to record before I had a nervous breakdown and made us switch to Friday afternoons.
Right.
And then I had a nervous breakdown because on Friday, I'm going to be in Wisconsin trying to get people to trust me with an apartment.
Yeah, that'll look good.
Yeah. And then so we had to move backwards, which has also affected our feedback.
Right.
Because usually, when we record on Friday, the day before an episode has gone live and some people have had some things to say.
Right.
And since we're recording on Wednesday, nobody has heard last week's the episode we recorded last yet.
No. I mean, you thought we had trouble when we had a 2-week lead time figuring out when and where we were.
Right?
This is like I don't know what to do now. I have no feedback to talk about hardly.
But the other thing is that I'm looking at the calendar and realizing this episode is people are going to be listening to this on Thursday, the 14th of June. Which
that sounds like an important day.
Well, it is because it means in 5 days, the Kickstarter for my book is live.
Oh.
Yeah.
What's your book about again?
It's not important.
Okay.
It's my website.
Oh, that's right. It's the
Angry GM website, the book.
Yes.
That's still the working title.
The book of the film of the play. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So I still have not finalized the title. I've been arguing back and forth with Jim about it. Because it's complicated. I'm not going to get into that story again. But yeah, so in 5 days, I have a Kickstarter going up. And
you should call it Angry Cuddles Puppies with a big fat asterisk next to it, and then leads down to the bottom and says, no, he doesn't.
Yeah, well, it's great. The key to a title is so that people looking at the book have no idea what it's about.
Exactly. That's how you name episodes for podcasts.
Right. That's how you name episodes for podcasts, sir.
No, trust me, that's how everybody names episodes for podcasts.
And this is why I don't listen to podcasts. But I did have my first minor freak out this week.
Did you?
Yep. Yesterday, actually, I guess Tuesday, I sent out an update email where I suddenly realized it was 2 weeks before this podcast went live. And I had to walk away for a little while.
Do you need a big old stuffed bear you can hug when these things happen?
I borrow Allie's otter.
Oh, okay.
Tiny has a stuffed otter.
Fine. A stuffed otter. Like a taxidermy stuffed otter, or just like a plushy stuffed otter?
No, a plush stuffed sea otter.
Because that'd be kind of weird to have a taxidermy stuffed otter to hug.
Yeah. Yeah, that would. And the stuffed otter itself has a plush stuffed starfish that it is cuddling.
I don't think that's cuddling.
It's as far as Tiny is concerned, it's cuddling.
Oh, okay.
They are Mr. Otter and Mr. Star are friends.
Oh, I see.
Okay. Yeah.
She's unfamiliar with how the world works. I see. Okay.
She is. She just doesn't want to live in that world.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right.
And in the confines of these four walls, she can define the world any way she wants. And it is my job to play along.
Oh, all right. As long as you're comfortable in your role, I guess that's okay. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. If people want a dad update, it's going great. And that's as far as I'm going with that update. Because things have cropped up that have nothing to do with his recovery that have made things complicated, but he's recovering just fine. Thank you. He'll be home next week sometime. We are now virtually 100% certain it will be next week sometime. Could be Monday. Could be later. It all depends. Glad that's out of the way.
Yeah.
I have so many little jobs to do now. Yeah. Every time I go visit him, it's like, oh, take the cover off the boat. Oh, vacuum out the boat. Oh, don't forget to put some sealant on the fascias. Oh, could you dig out the back garden a little bit? Oh, could you do this and do that and do this? Dad.
I'm sorry. Is he planning to jump from the rehab center onto his boat and go boating?
I don't know what he's planning to do, but he's going to be sorely disappointed. I have no idea. No, he just wants the cover off the boat because last year he waited too long to take the cover off the boat, and a certain amount of mildew set in.
Okay. All right.
And so he just wants it to air out and catch the sunlight and whatnot.
I'm sure he has an absolutely great reason for everything that he's assigning you to do.
Absolutely. And every one of them makes total sense. The only part of it that doesn't make sense is when do I do the things I need to do? I told him yesterday, I said, Dad, I have a list. This thing you have just told me, it's at the bottom of the list right now. Yep. But yeah, he'll be back next week, I think.
That is good.
Yes, that is good. This has been a long enough ordeal. I'm ready for it to be over. Ready to have my dad back. We got him a new chair. We got him and it's literally like, if you could have like a sort of rustic old time captain's chair, like on the, like a captain's chair on the Enterprise captain's chair.
Okay.
That's basically what we've got him. A rustic old timey looking.
A rustic old timey starship chair.
Yes, exactly. Yep. Exactly. Trust me, it'll make sense if you ever see it.
Bespoke transparent aluminum.
That's right. Real wood grain. It's great. Wow. We should do some feedback, I think.
All right. We do have some. We have a feedback.
We have a feedback, yes. A singular feedback. This is an important piece of feedback because it will lead us into something we're going to talk about later on. This is from Amram, and I'm assuming that's how that's pronounced because that's how I'm pronouncing it.
Did you say Ayn Rand?
Amram.
Oh.
Amram. Amram? I don't know how else to pronounce it. Amram? I could be really
right.
Yeah, I could be really wrong and go with Amram because I know that's wrong. But Amram seems good. I like Amram. Congratulations, Amram. You have a name I like and can pronounce.
Somehow you're still getting it wrong.
Yeah, I know. It's great. Just don't even pretend anymore. Wrote in via email.
The R is silent and the Q is invisible.
That's right. That's right. 4 M's and a silent Q. So he wants to know, leaving aside generic systems, and I'm assuming it's a he. It could be a she. I don't know how these things work. Maybe I've made a faulty assumption.
They want to know.
Oh, they want, well, I mean.
They want to know.
It could be sent in by a computer. What do you do then? I mean, think about it. Amram is a very computery name.
They want to know.
Leaving aside generic systems and systems based on established IPs, how important is a world in which the game is set, i.e. Forgotten Realms or the Pathfinder world, in light of both adventure paths and the D&D stats for which worlds GMs run in?
You want to start?
Sure.
How important is the world in which the game is set?
How important do you want it to be?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. First off, you have to acknowledge that it's actually the smaller percentage of people that run in established worlds or default worlds. We'll put it that way. Okay.
In D&D.
In D&D,
which is an important qualifier.
Right.
You know, you take the people who are running Star Wars right now, and they're pretty much running the established world.
Right. Kind of have to, whether you want to or not. That's kind of the way it goes. You can muck with the history, but the world itself is pretty much the way it is. Anyway, the point being, a lot of D&D, and I'm going to say also Pathfinder GMs aren't running an established world, except that it is one that they have established themselves. You know, they've done their own tweaking or thing, or maybe they haven't done any tweaking at all. And it's just sort of Genera world, you know, without all the fluff and the extra bits or whatever, which is fine. That doesn't matter for a certain set of people playing it. That appeals, and that's fine. But it just depends on how important you want to make it. If it's vitally important that you run in the Forgotten Realms, and that Neverwinter be a place, and that Baldur's Gate be a place, and that you can go to these places and do those things, then yeah, it's very important indeed. If you're just running in generic Dungeon 1 today and generic Dungeon 2 next week, I don't know that it matters all that much. Until you for whatever reason, start touching on unique and specific things within a given setting. Now you tell me where I'm wrong.
All right. There's two aspects to the whole idea of the world.
Uh-huh.
Okay, obviously there's specific locations and specific names and specific NPCs and stuff like that. Okay? And to some extent you're right. Those don't matter unless they do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And you can decide how much they want to matter when you're designing your game. And the more you decide they matter when you're designing the game, the harder it's going to be for people to file off the serial numbers when they're playing their game. For example, cleric spell choice in D&D is fairly generic. Clerics have a slate of generic abilities, and then there's a list of spells that they all can choose from, and then there's a very, very tiny list of domain powers that are tied to specific spheres of influence. Okay? And they chose those spheres of influence based on what they thought would be good game effects, and also what would tie into the gods of the world. Right? That means that all clerics feel mostly the same, except for one or two little bitty powers. If you wanted a world where the clerics really felt like representatives of the gods, and specific gods, and that a cleric's choice of which god they follow is much more important, then you would have to design more specific abilities keyed to specific themes that are keyed to the gods of your world. Now, you still could do generic spheres, but you would actually strengthen the identity of every cleric by doing so, and you would have specific mechanics to it. Okay, so there's even that level of adding some specificity to your game world that actually helps you design things that are stronger. And the other thing that lets you do is when the players encounter a cleric who is wearing a particular symbol in a particular world, because that is strongly tied to the mechanics, they're more likely to remember who that god is and what that god is about than when you have the players say, the symbol of Lolth. Who is Lolth again? What does Lolth do? What does she believe? Mm-hmm. So the more details you reinforce in your mechanics, and the more mechanics you reinforce in your world details, the easier it is to become immersed in your game. Basically, it's a trick to make your game more approachable. It makes it easier for people to get into your game and learn the world and become a part of it. Okay, that's why generic systems actually take so much work to even get a game up off the ground, because you have to establish everything for the players. Where like in a world like that, where even just reading the class description of cleric tells the players who the gods are in the world and what things are important to the people of the world. Like if they have a god of mercy that covers both healing and mercy killing, that says something different than if they have like the benevolent mother goddess who covers, healing and caretaking. That establishes a much harsher world, right? Yeah. But beyond even that, there are world details that don't seem like world details until you realize they're missing. For example, my friend Brian, do you remember last week we had a conversation about, and obviously people will not be hearing, people will be hearing this last week. Never mind. I forgot, time still flows for everybody. Right. We had a conversation about what detect magic can actually detect.
Right.
And how much trouble Mr. Crawford, was it Crawford or Perkins who did this one?
Sure, one of those two.
And how much trouble they got into because in trying to perform the mental gymnastics necessary to answer the question of why detect magic sometimes detects things that are magic and other times does not detect things that are magic. Like it will detect summoned creatures, but not, like if you summon a devil, it will detect the summoned devil, but if the devil's just there, it won't. Undead don't detect as magical, but magical items do. All of this stuff, all of these weird little bizarre rules that you just have to kind of remember, all stem from the fact that at no point did the folks at Wizards of the Coast sit down and look at their world and say, well, what is magic? What things can we say are magic? What things can we say are not magic? And therefore, when we have a spell like Detect Magic, or a spell like Dispel Magic, or a spell like Anti-Magic Field, what does and doesn't it work on? And now, because you just have a pile of rules, because they're abstract mechanics that are keyed to no details about the world, everybody has to try and work out these bizarre formulas, what does and what doesn't do it. And when you look back at 3rd edition, they had very, very firm and strong rules for what was and was not magic. To the point where you could look at a monster stat block and see, this trait of the monster is magical. And so if they're in an anti-magic field, this one doesn't work because it's a spell-like ability or a supernatural ability. This one keeps working because it's an extraordinary ability. Because they worked out the physics of their world. Those things can really break a game when they don't work them out ahead of time. And it's that sort of thing that people forget are also setting details. Because even though they're not specific to Orth or Toril or Spelljammerland or whatever, they are specific to the world of D&D. And they make it possible for you as a GM to figure out how things should work. And they make it possible for the players to figure out what things should and should not be possible. And those things are all really important in a role-playing game where everybody's supposed to be free to try whatever they want.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Is that a good answer to that question?
I think that was a far better answer than Amram was expecting. Yeah, I kind of like the reclassification of the Phoenix as an Elder Elemental. That makes sense.
Fair enough.
Oh man, did they lose it though?
What?
So they have 4 Elder Elementals, which makes sense. Leviathan, which would be an Elder Water Elemental. Phoenix, the Elder Fire Elemental. The Zaratan.
I know what that is.
Yeah, right?
That's Turtle Island, yeah.
Right, as an Earth Elemental, and I think that's a very clever place to put it. And then Elder Tempest. They couldn't come up with one more specific mythological being to fill the role of air.
Right.
It's just Elder Tempest. How about Quetzalcoatl? Because, I mean, it looks like a feathery lightning serpent. What's the Thunderbird thing?
Thunderbird.
It's just the Thunderbird, right?
Yeah.
The Thunderbird.
There we go. All done.
They get so close on things.
What is this thing you are getting this information out of?
I'm leafing through Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes.
Oh, well, there's your first mistake.
I know. And you know what? Once again, I'm torn on it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they did some kind of cool stuff in here. But also, like... Okay, so, first of all, there was an argument in my Discord chat about this.
Was there?
Yeah, because people are arguing that this feels like it's unfocused. That, that it was like just they threw a bunch of stuff together that doesn't belong together. And other people were saying, no, I can see the focus. This is much better than like Xanathar's Guide to Everything. I'm like, well, first of all, that's setting the bar really low. Okay? If they manage to get 2 chapters on the same topic in the book, it's more focused than Xanathar's Guide to Everything, right? So the majority of this book, I guess what? Pages 136 through 157. No. Oh, that's just the stat blocks. The majority of this book, a good half the book, is given over to, it's just another monster manual. Okay? The first half of the book, the first 100 pages or so, cover the following topics. Chapter 1, The Blood War. Okay, that is the great all-consuming war that was first described in the Planescape setting between the devils of hell and the demons of the abyss. Right? Mm-hmm. And most of the chapter is given over to just describing devils and demons. And a lot more is given over to devils than demons. The demons get a couple of paragraphs. The devils get cults and descriptions of all the major archdevils that rule the different layers of the 9 hells. My favorite, Levistus, is in there. And then the demons get a couple of paragraphs and they're done.
Why is that?
I don't know. Okay, so Chapter 1, The Blood War. Chapter 2, Elves. Chapter 3, Dwarves and Dwergar. Chapter 4, Gith and Their Endless War, which covers the Githzerai and the Githyanki.
Mm-hmm.
And their war.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, Chapter 5, Halflings and Gnomes. Who, last time I checked, are 2 different races.
Yeah.
Like, I could sort of understand that they combine the Dwarves and the Dwergar together for the same reason that they combine the Elves and the Drow together, though the Chapter 2 should have been called Elves and Drow, but whatever.
Right.
Okay? And then the rest is just a bestiary of... it covers the gamut. There's all sorts of monsters in here. So I'm trying to figure out what the unifying theme of this book is supposed to be.
But before you get that far...
Yeah.
I mean, those other chapters you named off, where are the Zwerfneblin and
Zwerfneblin?
Yeah. Are they in the gnome chapter?
They are covered in the gnome chapter, I think. Let me see here. Page 113.
Because if there's one thing we know,
hard as ever to find those page numbers.
Yeah. If there's one thing we know, it's that every surface player race has a subsurface dark version. Except
humans. For some reason, they never did dark humans.
No.
Don't know why. Can't imagine why they didn't.
Mm.
Yeah, Zwerfneblin are in here. They're just referred to as deep gnomes.
Mm-hmm.
And look at that. They stole my idea of having personality traits based on races instead of just backgrounds.
Ooh.
which I wrote about like 2 years ago in How to Make Inspiration Not Stink.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway.
I remember that article.
Yeah. Well, apparently they caught up to me.
Hmm.
Anyway, so I could care less about or couldn't care less. I don't, whichever one is, you know what? Whichever one is the wrong one, that's the one I'm using just to annoy people.
Right. So you couldn't care less.
I could care less about all of this fluff, because that's what all of this stuff is. It's just fluff about the elves. And they decided that the elves needed 30 new gods. Nah, it's not 30. It's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Oh my God, it's 30 new gods.
Really?
Yeah, they listed 30 gods for the elves, the Seldarin deities. And,
so is there a reason for that I don't know about?
Yeah, there is, of course. It's anything they can do to to scratch that nostalgia itch. All the elven gods they're basically slowly bringing back all the gods that they stripped out of the game. But these gods actually get a write-up, unlike all of the other gods in D&D 5th edition. So Gonador, the god of oozes, slimes, and outcasts, now has more description in the core, in the D&D rules than Pelor, the neutral good god of the sun and everything good in the world.
Okay, all right. I've got a lot of questions about things you've told me so far, but I feel like if I start throwing them at you, we're going to distract from your main point.
My main point is just I don't understand what this book is about. Like, why did they decide that they needed to put in a write-up about the Blood War? I could understand if this was a book of elves, dwarves, halflings, and then they included, I don't know, like the other races like orcs and tieflings and dragonborn and stuff, and humans. Then they could make this a book about races, and then all of the monster stat blocks could be foes from those races, the good and the bad,
Mm-hmm.
But there's also the Blood War in there, which is the only chapter of the 6 that isn't related to a specific race or period of race or group of races, unless you count devils and demons. Oh, and there's tieflings stuck in there, isn't there? Yeah, there is. And then they threw in the Githyanki and the Githzerai as their own chapter. Their own really short, sad little chapter, but a chapter nonetheless. And then the bestiary runs the gamut. All the stuff that's like they already mentioned is in there. So you have a whole bunch of drow and a whole bunch of Dwergar and a whole bunch of Githzerai and a bunch of ogres. I'm not sure where they came from. And the star spawns, so you have all like the Cthulhu monsters. There's a bunch of elementals, as I mentioned. They brought back Archons, but they have changed them to Myrmidons. So I don't know what that's about. So it's all... Oh, and a bunch of the demon or demon lords are in here, or the demon princes. Jubilex is in here, and Orcus is in here, I think. Yeah, Orcus is in here. And then they brought back a bunch of the classic devils, like the Abishai from Planescape.
Well, didn't they say originally when they were promoting this wonderful tome that they were going to be exploring things from other planes, other realms?
I guess. So then I'm curious about the inclusion of the elves and dwarves and halflings and gnomes.
Well, obviously, they're not from around here.
Well, the flavor pretty much says they are. And there's well, you know what? Once again, I get the impression they had half a book. And then they ran around the office asking if anybody had anything on their desk they could throw into this book. And someone said, well, I got all this stuff on halflings. It's like, great, throw it in. That should be like their like marketing slogan now is, we got half a book. Great, throw that in. So anybody who says this book is more focused than the previous book, it's yeah, it is, but that's like saying someone has the most social skills of everybody on League of Legends. or Fortnite. I guess we should say Fortnite now, right? I got to replace League of Legends.
Yeah, I think so. Also, please address all your mail to him, not to me.
They did do some interesting things with the monster stats, but some of the stuff is just sad and boring. They missed a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of people out there right now. Like if you watch on Twitter, you find a lot of people are designing custom monsters, and they are willing to do a lot more interesting things than Wizards of the Coast does. Okay, really. You know what though? Actually, there is a theme.
There is a theme. What is that? What is your great revelation, sir?
Well, actually, it's kind of funny because this ties into something that we had planned to discuss.
Funny how that happens.
All this stuff is mostly connected to other campaigns. They've got Planescape stuff in here. Like, there's a lot of Planescape stuff. But there's also a lot of there's some Ebberon stuff in here, very clearly. It's not just them connected to other, like, yeah, maybe it is other planes, but it's
other campaign worlds.
Yeah,
it's interesting. Like, you should mention that.
Like even all the extra gods is all that's a bunch of Forgotten Realms stuff. Is where all those gods came from. Or Greyhawk. There's some Greyhawk stuff in here too.
Odd.
Yeah, like Zugtmoy. That was the fungus queen from Castle Greyhawk, wasn't it? No, Temple of Elemental Evil.
Yeah. And she made an appearance in Princes of the Apocalypse already.
Yeah, okay.
No, is it Princes of the Apocalypse, or is that the one with the crawl out of the under mountain stuff?
Oh, okay.
Whichever one that is.
That wasn't Demogorgon in that one? Huh, okay.
All the big names.
There's a bunch of Ebberon, like the Clockwork stuff here.
Yeah.
Like Iron Defenders and Steel Cobras, all the non-humanoid Warforged.
Oh.
Yeah.
The Warforged that just weren't quite good enough to be considered human, huh?
Yeah. Oblex, Jubilex, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, this is
interesting.
Yeah.
The reason I mentioned that is,
Spelljammer stuff. Sorry.
Do you know who Nathan Stewart is?
I not off the top of my head.
He is the brand director and executive producer of Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, I guess I should know that name, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I don't.
In addition to the other two things we may or may not talk about. He was asked about the plans for D&D for 2019. And he said, well, wait a minute. We aren't done with 2018 yet. Like, there's more to come, apparently. And the intrepid interviewer over at, what is this place? Comicbook.com, I guess, whatever. The intrepid interviewer said, well, what, dear sir, are you talking about? And he said, next month, we're going to talk about a couple of different settings that people can start playing as early as this year, Stewart said. Now, in case you missed that, a couple of different settings that people can start playing. They're not going to be full-blown storylines, but are introductions to different worlds set inside the D&D multiverse. It's going to be more like at the level of how Barovia is in terms of stuff. Here's a thing that's going to give you a taste of the setting, but we're not going to that setting yet.
So so they're doing adventure paths without the actual adventure part.
I guess.
I'm sorry.
We're just letting you get in there and start doing it.
They have figured out how to monetize their skill at writing half a book. It's just like, well, we'll just stop at that half.
Sort of reminiscent of that. Basically, what you're going to get is a large book, or a large portion of the coming books to describe the populous economy backstory, key characters, that sort of stuff for these new settings.
Okay.
But he declined.
The stuff that's easy to write and doesn't involve any mechanics.
He declined to say which campaign settings D&D would be revisiting this year. But he did note that the books would please hardcore fans of the franchise.
Well, let's be honest, there aren't actually that many settings.
So, my question is this. No, first I'm going to throw one extra piece of information at you.
Mm-hmm.
Dungeons & Dragons has already started to tease popular worlds in some of their publications and online programs. Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes recently introduced the GIF, an anthropomorphic hippo mercenary from the sci-fi-inspired Spelljammer setting.
Can confirm.
Yes.
Yep, got him right here.
Chris Perkins noted that the Spelljammer helm would appear in Dungeon of the Mad Mage as a possession of Hallister Blackcloak, the titular Mad Mage. Merles has been teasing psionics on Twitter and in his weekly Mike Merles Happy Fun Hour program, including it's a popular core mechanic of multiple classes, including those featured in the Dark Sun campaign setting.
As well as you would need it for Ebberon.
Mm-hmm.
All the Kalishtar stuff was all psionics.
Yeah. They said they've got 2 surprises for the hardcore D&D fans this coming summer. And one surprise is going to release later this year that we've not told anyone about, to be announced in July. Sir, does this bolster your thoughts on Mordenkainen?
It does explain to me why they had this particular stuff sitting around on their desks to throw into this book. Because that's still my theory about how this book was written.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I'm reading there's another article on this on tribality.com, which I guess I should link to you so that you can include it too, since I've now mentioned it.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, there we go. This is mainly his thoughts. But he references, who is this? Yeah, this is Sean Ellsworth at Tribality. He references a survey that D&D did back in 2015 about campaign settings, and his link doesn't appear to be working to it. If I remember, part of that revealed that most people are not playing, or are playing in homebrew settings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is a different one. Which settings did people want to see the most? And it was sort of a 5-way tie between Ebberon, Ravenloft, Dark Sun, Planescape, and the Forgotten Realms. Second tier tie was Dragonlance, Greyhawk, and Spelljammer. Now, they've already touched Ravenloft.
Right.
So I would take that off the list. And I don't think they're going to do anything with Forgotten Realms right now. I think because most of their adventure paths have sort of tacitly assumed settings in the Forgotten Realms.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're going to consider that well-trod ground. So they're talking about how many now? They're talking about a total...
3, I think.
3.
2 this summer and the 3rd announced in July.
Right. Okay. So, well, let's see. They did work with... Didn't they work with Weiss recently? Yeah, in fact, the Curse of Strahd had to involve Weiss and Hickman, right?
Yep.
So if they have a relationship with Weiss again, then that would certainly allow Dragonlance to come back into being, Weiss and or Hickman. Right?
Right.
So even though Dragonlance was kind of a second tier, it wouldn't surprise me if they just did something for Planescape. But didn't they do something with Sigil recently?
I don't think so. I'm not sure.
What am I thinking?
I don't think they did.
Okay. So it would not surprise me because Sigil lends the center of the Planescape setting, the city of Sigil, lends itself to exactly what they're describing as sort of a highlighting a particular location that captures the essence of the campaign world, right?
Mm-hmm. So
Planescape would probably be the best one for them to go with because it hits exactly that, and it's one of the top 5 most popular. Okay. Likewise, Dark Sun got a lot of love in the 4E era, and its popularity is still enduring. So it wouldn't surprise me in the least to see Dark Sun. Number 3, Ebberon. Like, they've been teasing Spelljammer junk. But, like, what could they do? What was in the Spelljammer universe? Well, Spelljammer, actually, okay. All right, so if I were doing this, Spelljammer would be one of the first I would throw out. Because not only does it allow me to get Spelljammer out there, which for some reason there is some demand for, Spelljammer also becomes the unifying principle of all these settings, right? Because that's what it was. In fact, between Spelljammer and Planescape, you can connect all of the other worlds in D&D. So if I were thinking in terms of building say like the D&D universe franchise, because that's what we're looking to go with, I would want to get Planescape and or Spelljammer out there early, because they define the rules of the universe. And then they give me, in 2019, a place to hang other locations. Like, I can do Dark Sun, and then we can bring in Dragonlance, and then we can bring in Ebberon and all of that stuff. Because they're all connected through Spelljammer, and they're all connected through Planescape.
Do you really think that if they lead with Spelljammer and Planescape, people aren't going to throw a massive fit?
Well, people are going to throw a massive fit, however. So
I understand that, but seriously though, people have been screaming about Ebberon for ages.
Yeah.
And if you tell them Ebberon has to wait until after Planescape and Spelljammer, especially Spelljammer, you are going to have a murderous riot on your hands.
That's true. And Ebberon was highly popular in the 3rd edition era, and those are the people they want to pull back into D&D. I mean, they have said very clearly what their intentions are. Okay. Right. Their intentions are they want to continue to draw back the people they lost to Pathfinder in the 4E era. Because that's what 5th edition is absolutely all about. That is their marketing plan. They cannot see beyond the lapsed fans. Because in their mind, they need the core fans, because that's the only way to get new players. Okay, so...
Well, they're the easiest to get back, too, because they've already played the game once.
Yeah, right. There's nothing easier to draw back than a lapsed player who felt betrayed by your product and went and played something else for 10 years.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a stupid strategy. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. It was a stupid decision. 4th edition was building a fan base among new, young gamers, and they abandoned them to go back and try to drag in the old guard. They should have said goodbye, see you. They should have said goodbye, see you to me. Okay? Because the other problem is that you and me, we see right through this nostalgia garbage. We're not impressed by it.
No.
Okay? But what they are marketing to, because this is the other thing that nostalgia appeals to, and I still do not understand this. But nostalgia also appeals to a group of people who are nostalgic for something they were not around for the first time. And I think we've talked about that before.
Right.
There is a whole group of people who are nostalgic for these old campaign settings who are too young to have ever even played in any of them.
But they've heard all the stories about how brilliant they are.
Right.
And it's a closed club.
Yeah.
You have to have played those in order to be part of the club.
Right.
Theoretically.
But I guess. So anyway. No, I do agree you're right. Ebberon probably has to be close to the list. I would pick... I wouldn't put Spelljammer as a high possibility, except the fact that they're planting seeds of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I would put Planescape up there. If I had to... Okay, so my top 3 choices. Ebberon, because of what you said. Because I do agree that it needs to be in there pretty early. Planescape, because it helps establish the universe, and Sigil lends itself perfectly to that approach. And I would go with Dark Sun.
You think so?
Yeah, because, well, look, like I said, you look at the top 5 in their survey: Ebberon, Ravenloft, Dark Sun, Planescape, and the Forgotten Realms. I don't think they're going to do anything more with Forgotten Realms for a while. Because Forgotten Realms is the generic world anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Ravenloft, they did with Curse of Strahd. In fact, they're using it as their example of how to do this. And that leaves Ebberon, Dark Sun, and Planescape. Ebberon for the reasons you've said. Planescape for the reasons I've said. And Dark Sun as the third one. And later on, they can bring back the other stuff: Dragonlance, Greyhawk, Spelljammer. You know,
I'm gonna make the push for it again. I'm gonna say Expedition to the Barrier Peaks becomes the gateway adventure for Spelljammer.
Yeah, that. Except that they said they're not bothering with the adventure now. They're just going to do the setting part. It's just going to be the continent of Chult or the city of Barovia, and you're just going to get that book. And I am very angry about their quality and printing issues. Continue to hound them.
Yeah, that was a brilliant video, wasn't it?
That's not the only time that's happened, though. That's the thing. If that was an isolated incident, then we could just laugh about it and say, wah, wah, oh well.
For those of you who do not know, a video surfaced on the YouTube about a week ago, I guess it was now.
We discussed it last week, did we not?
I don't think we did. I think we pushed it to one side because we had time constraints.
Oh, okay.
It certainly didn't make it into the show notes that I know about.
Oh, okay.
The thing of it was, a gentleman was sent a player's handbook, yeah?
Yeah, it was a player's handbook.
Sent a player's handbook that had a problem of fairly extravagant nature. The book was printed, well, depending on your point of view, the book was printed correctly and then attached to its cover upside down.
Oh.
Or the book was entirely messed up in a completely unique and original way, which involved an improper cut and some bad bleed over and the pages all being in upside down and backwards. And it was quite the thing. Now, yeah, I know errors like this creep in production.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's to be expected that every so often something will go wrong. You know, a machine will hiccup or they'll hit the end of a batch of supply that they need to make the book and it won't transition correctly to the next batch or whatever. I know these things happen. And I know it's impossible, theoretically, to look at every single book that goes through your press and verify its quality and all that kind of stuff. But apparently so many things went wrong with this book, it's hard to see how they didn't catch it.
Yeah, and especially because given like the cutting on the pages was clearly done with a as it was described, Alpha Investments, that was the YouTube channel that did the video.
Right. And
the cutting on the pages was clearly done with a knife or a blade that was badly in need of sharpening or replacement. Because it had just devoured the pages.
Yeah.
To the point where I cannot believe that's the only book that came off the production line like that. Like it was the one whoopsie doodle.
Yeah. Well, you have to ask yourself, all right, is this the only one? And this is the one that triggered the little alarm that said, oh, hey, something's wrong here. And so they fixed all that, but forgot to yank this book.
Yeah.
Or is this just one in a series that they just didn't catch?
Right. And which, as he pointed out, if they had a print run that had gone wrong like this, that means that nobody walked over to the stack of books that had come off the run and opened one and just looked. Because the minute you look at that book, the minute you open the cover, it's wrong. Because it's backwards, upside down, glued improperly, and the pages are all chewed up.
Yeah. You don't even actually have to open it. You just have to look at the edge of it and realize that all the color keying and whatnot is exposed.
Right? But beyond that, I mean, with Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, they had to recall their entire shipment of the alternate cover versions, the ones that they had shipped early for pre-orders from local game stores as part of their, hey, thanks for being a local game store and, you know, a fan of D&D, here's your special alternate pre-order cover. They had to recall them all, and they were non-specific as to the issue. You know? On top of that, all 3 of their core rule books, when initially sent out, and even some beyond the initial print run, had binding issues where the books were falling apart. I went through 2. I went through a player's handbook and a monster manual that fell apart on me. Wizards of the Coast replaced them both, because by then they had a standard process for it. They didn't even question whether or not it had happened. They're just like, yep, we'll send you new ones. And they did it fast. But it was such an endemic problem that they had a standard process for it.
Yeah.
And if you follow Magic the Gathering, they have been having a tremendous problem with Magic cards in all of their recent sets coming out of the boxes warped. Okay? So it's like, even if this video was, whoops, they made one bad player's handbook, they have had so many other problems. And they're remaining silent on it. They, you know, like even Greg Tito put out a statement about the Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. And it was, we talked about that on the air, didn't we? Because he kind of laughed it off. He's like, yeah, I guess Devils from the Nine Hells got to our books. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's like, you shut up. You apologize. And you act like you're sorry. This is not a joke, okay? These products are, you know, these books are $50 a piece. That's not an insubstantial amount of money. Get it together. So, you know, it's stuff like that that really annoys me. And I realize that I'm gradually becoming more and more bitter towards Wizards of the Coast. I still love D&D, but I'm really learning to hate this company. And that's not even, you know, going into other stuff I know that is going on there that I really can't talk about. So I'm reaching the point now where I just have to stop opening their books. Because I cannot be unbiased anymore. You know, every time I open one of their books now, it's like, how are they going to screw this up? Or what didn't they do? You know, I read through all of their adventure paths, or most of their adventure path books. They're all the same. They're all the same. Curse of Strahd was different. I'll give that to them. Curse of Strahd was different. But remember when we were talking about what was Tomb of Annihilation going to look like? And we nailed the structure of that.
Uh-huh.
You know? It's like, yeah, the reason we can do that is because they all look exactly the same.
Apparently, we're going to Waterdeep, not once, but twice.
Yeah.
And I'm not at all sure why.
It's, well, you know, we only have a vague description of these products yet.
Yeah.
But, and see, this goes back to the same problem. These are, like, I am compelled by 50% of these products.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they've got 2 of them coming, right? So there's, sorry.
I'm going to guess that 50%, I'm going to guess that 50% is not one book over the other. It's like half of one book and half of the other book. No,
but that's probably the way it's going to work out.
Okay.
Is that I'm going to get 2 half books that are both okay. But I'm actually interested in 50% of these books.
Okay, tell me about it.
Okay. So there's 2 books, right? Waterdeep Dragon Heist and Waterdeep Dungeon of the Mad Mage. Okay. Dungeon of the Mad Mage is a reference to the dungeon under Undermountain. Or I guess they just call it Undermountain, don't they?
I think so, yes.
Okay. It was built by Halaster Blackcloak, the Mad Mage, and it's basically, it was one of the first it was actually the first published giant box set mega dungeon, okay? It was Undermountain. And that's from the description we've gotten of the product, which is coming in November of 2018. It is, that's what this product is. It is explore the mega dungeon of Undermountain in this adventure, okay? Which, that's fine. I don't really have any interest in it because as mega dungeons go, Undermountain is just a big old pile of encounters, and I'm sure and I have a feeling also that they're going to do exactly what they did with Expedition to Undermountain back in 3rd edition, and with the original Undermountain box set, which is when they say that all of this stuff has been, they say 23 levels of this dungeon have been detailed in this book. And I'm like, no, 23 levels of the dungeon have been mapped, and less than a quarter of them have been built out with encounters and stuff, and the rest is left as blank space for the DM to build whatever they want. Because that's what Undermountain has always been.
I'd like to suggest an alternative.
Sure.
You said 23 levels of this?
23 levels of this dungeon.
23 levels. I don't think that's going to turn out to be the case.
It says 23 levels have been detailed herein.
No. I think 23 separate dungeons have been detailed.
Okay.
And then connected up into an Undermountain shape.
You know what? Honestly, I don't know that I agree with you.
Oh, okay.
Because the original Undermountain maps are still out there. They could just use those maps.
And you're arguing that they won't. Okay. That's fine.
No, I'm saying they will. I'm saying they will.
Oh, they will.
They will take those old maps of Undermountain and just populate them, or populate some of them.
Okay.
But if they are anything close to the size of those maps, they did not fully flesh out 23 levels of that dungeon. I'm telling you, they didn't.
They don't
have the page space for it.
Yeah, I was going to say, do we have a page count on this yet?
Well, let's say pre-order it for $50. So
192 pages.
Yeah. Yeah, I assume you just opened any one of their random adventure paths and looked at how many pages there were. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's pretty standard size.
Yeah.
I can also just scroll. Oh, no. I take it back. I apologize to everybody profusely for my maligning the good nature of both WotC and Dungeons and Dragons. The hardcover is 256 pages.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still telling you that they did not. That is not. There's a lot of empty space in that dungeon.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of empty space, and I imagine that they're going to do a lot of it as fill in the blanks, which even then I'm fine with, because I like maps of dungeons, but I probably will not be buying that book. That's not the one I'm interested in.
Well, let me tell you, my experience with really large dungeons is the world's largest dungeon.
That was a whole different kettle of fish.
Yes, that was a much different kettle of fish.
And that was approximately the size of what it would take to detail 23 levels of dungeon.
Exactly. Exactly. A map the size of like a school geography map.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. So it included several poster maps that themselves fit together in a jigsaw puzzle.
Yes, exactly.
So the total thing was, if I recall correctly, 16 poster maps. 4 by 4.
That is correct. That is correct. It was huge.
Yes.
And it was, as far as I'm aware, the world's largest dungeon. But it also had a very significant problem, which was the other thing about it was that it tried to include every monster then available in the monster manuals.
Yes. That was a delightful little game that it played.
Aside from things like Blue Dragon, Black Dragon, Red Dragon, that kind of stuff, it would just have like one representative of things like that.
Right, and we're letting it off the hook for that.
Right.
I'm not complaining about any of that.
Yeah. But it was largely where each level kind of had its own thing going on, and not much of it really connected with anything else.
Right.
So things would be going on level 3, and other things would be going on level 30, and 3 and 30 had very little to do with each other.
Oh yeah. Which is
that's what I'm talking about.
Well, again, that's sort of standard for a mega dungeon. Mega dungeon is just fill up an entire book of graph paper.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what Undermountain was. That's What was the other one? Because they did another one. They republished another one in 3rd edition. Was it? Expedition to the Ruins of Greyhawk. That was another Mega Dungeon project. A published Mega Dungeon book that they did. That was mostly maps. And some of them were filled in with some stuff. And the rest was kind of like, well, have fun. There's a lot of dungeon to fill in.
Yeah.
You know.
And don't get me wrong, it wasn't like it was all the same kind of dungeon all the way through either. I mean, you had different, what do you want to call it, habitats?
Yeah, ecosystems.
Ecosystems, habitats, whatever, through the course of the dungeon. So, there'd be the lava room, and then there'd be the lake room, and then there'd be the,
all of these standard Super Mario World settings.
Exactly.
Grassland, deserts, ocean, lava, ice, cake land.
Exactly. The land of pleather. You know how it is. The whole thing. And apparently this Undermountain thing is set up the same way, I guess.
I would imagine it is. So
I've never been to Undermountain, so I don't know.
I mean, I could say a lot about Mega Dungeons because I have been writing one for a year and a half now. I've been writing one for over 2 years now.
Yeah.
And the only reason it's taken me 2 years is because I have decided to explain every step of my process in blog form. Otherwise, this would have been done a year ago.
Yeah, there's nothing for slowing down like a project like writing a blog for it.
Right? Explaining the whole thing in a book as you're doing it.
Right.
But that is based around a completely different design philosophy than what I'm sure Wizards of the Coast is going to do. Though I do know that at one time there were a number of Wizards of the Coast employees who do read my blog. And wouldn't it be interesting if they realized they could beat me to this one?
Yeah. No kidding.
No, but serious. So I'm actually more interested in the other one, though.
The other one, which is the city adventure thingy, the dragon steely the thingy from the dragony.
Well, it's called Dragon Heist.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah. And it's basically it's an urban adventure source book. Set in the city of Waterdeep, which is the city around Undermountain.
Right.
And it is based on urban intrigue and heist type adventures and stuff like that.
Right.
Okay, and the adventure is supposedly like a heist adventure inspired by Ocean's 11 and the Italian Job in a city environment, according to Chris Perkins. Where the goal of the adventure is to try and find a trove of treasure and keep it out of the hands of the villains. If they can actually pull that off in an interesting way, I will be very surprised. Because I have a feeling that a lot of it is just going to be walls of text and no mechanics, where it just says, and the DM should just make stuff up for how they sneak in there and do this.
That seems unfair and harsh.
Because yeah, I guess it is. That's my cynicism showing again. But it's also my experience showing.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I'm looking at the cover art for the Dragon Heist thing. Why is the Infinity Gauntlet in there?
That is the Infinity Gauntlet. What is that?
I don't know, but also notice in the background.
Yeah.
There's a big beholder in the background.
Yeah.
Is that going to be Xanathar again?
Well, it's got to be Xanathar because Xanathar is based in Skullport, which is in Undermountain, which is under Waterdeep. So it all connects together. Xanathar's running around this whole adventure saying, like, why do we have souls? And who took my goldfish?
Okay. So you're actually looking forward to the Dragon Heist thing. That's nice.
Looking forward to it is a bit...
Okay, fine. I wouldn't mind if it showed up on your front door.
I'm intrigued enough by it that I'll check it out. I will be surprised if they pull it off. If they pull off what they want to. In a way that is in which they actually manage to mechanically build what they want to build in a way that isn't just a whole bunch of fluff, okay? Because I'm tired of their fluff. They write great fluff. They write way too much fluff, but they write good fluff. But all that basically says is, okay, you're the GM, you figure out how to actually make this happen. You know, here's an NPC, here's what he wants. All right, good luck, you know?
Okay.
You want to tell me that you're going to tell me how to run an urban adventure and a heist adventure. Well, D&D does not do any of that. Not in its core. So you sure better have some interesting mechanics for me. Otherwise, you're just telling me to hack my own game. And you know what? I can do that already. Thank you. So
I'm confused by something terrible here.
Yeah.
Am I missing something crucial to understanding what's going on here? No. Okay. I just haven't been told one piece of information. All right. That's it.
What's that?
Apparently, Dragon Heist connects to Dungeon of the Mad Mage.
Yes.
And for a moment there, I thought for some reason they had the release order backwards, but they don't. I just wasn't given all the information that I needed.
Yeah.
To determine that. So yeah, Dragon Heist comes out in September, theoretically, according to Amazon.
Right.
And
September 7th is the early release.
Right.
So it'll be a week later for people who don't shop at, who just buy it on Amazon.
For people who are traders
for $20 off.
Exactly. In a pre-order. Not that we'd recommend that.
No, I would never recommend pre-order.
I would never save yourself $20. Never. Even.
No. You don't have to pre-order it to save that. That's the same price that Amazon's going to charge for it when it comes out. You don't get a discount for pre-ordering.
It's not what it says, but okay.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I don't buy it.
Okay, don't buy it.
No, you're just saying that's just their pre-order price guarantee.
Yeah, okay.
That just means if the price changes beforehand, you will have the lowest price of what you pledged to pay for it or what price it went down to.
Anyway,
yeah.
Mad Mage comes out in November, so
yeah.
There you go. For a minute there, I thought they had Mad Mage coming out before Dragon Heist, and I was going to be all kinds of confused.
Oh, they're also coming out with a set of dice for Dragon Heist.
Well, of course they are. Don't you understand? There's been like a new DM screen for every stupid adventure. There's been special dice. There's been that. Not that I'm aware of.
Actually, this little dice set is kind of neat. It has a giant oversized D20 in it.
Boy, you are really working to try to be nice to WotC and D&D.
You know what? Actually, look, I'm going to compliment this dice set.
Okay.
The D&D Waterdeep Dragon Heist dice set includes 4d6 for generating characters, even though you don't roll for characters anymore, so I don't know why we're still doing that.
Right.
It includes percentile dice, which I don't know why we're including those because we don't use percentile dice anymore. But it also includes a little a little clicky counter numbered in 10s and 1s for you to keep track of hit points with.
Yep.
Which is a neat little thing.
I mean, that is kind of neat.
It is. I'm just saying it's neat. I'm not saying, now everything Wizards has ever done is forgiven.
Mm-hmm.
But I am saying it's a cute little set.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind it as a gift for someone who liked dice.
All right.
Tiny.
I mean, if you know somebody like that, sure. Yeah. All right. Okay. That's fine. That's a thing that's happening. So that's all the D&D news for the past week, believe it or not. That's all. There is no more.
See, this is what happens when you guys don't send us feedback.
Nothing happened at all anywhere else for the rest of the week.
I feel like you're trying to passive aggressively remind me of something I was supposed to ask you.
Well, no, not really.
I feel like that response is a passive aggressive response warning me that I have forgotten like our anniversary or something.
No, not really.
Is it your birthday again?
No, not really. I mean, the only other thing we could possibly even begin to talk about in this particular show.
Yeah.
Is this thing here, which I have now entered. Apparently, there's some sort of augmented reality game going on for Dungeons and Dragons that I don't know anything about.
Huh. Yeah, it really does speak wonders for their marketing that all this stuff can happen that we haven't heard.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. This looks fun.
Sure. Apparently, somehow Yelp reviews and going to game stores and I don't know. I don't know.
Huh.
There's been key-shaped USB drives sent out. Runes. Anyway, puzzles and things to solve. The game involves
finding a stone of great power sent to Earth by the mage Elminster and guarded by a person who had their memories of their past life blocked.
Anyway, there's an augmented reality game, which, if you don't know, is a game that occurs in real life using real life things and not merely staring at your computer screen, although a certain amount of that will be involved as you attempt to decipher the various clues.
Right. You know what? Good on them for trying to do something creative with the marketing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure, given who they're sending this stuff out to, I'm not sure how they're reaching beyond their existing audience already, but you know what? At least they're trying.
Yeah, Matt Mercer.
Yeah.
Matt Colville.
Right.
Ivan von Norman and Gavin Sheehan from Bleeding Cool have received special keys that do special things.
Yeah. There's also an Instagram account where apparently Elminster is posting pictures into our universe.
Does that mean it's an Elminstergram? An Elminstergram. I like that. That's great. Also, Hallister Blackcloak has a Twitter account under Immortal Fortress.
Oh, I see what he did there.
Yeah. Anyway, there is some Team Volo hashtag. What? Anyway, there's a thing.
We are not nearly steeped enough in the lore to begin to decipher this.
No, you can search this up yourself. We will put a link to it in the show notes because, frankly, we're out of time.